We had two fairly unexpected finals in Cincinnati, especially on the men's side. I'll discuss Carlos Alcaraz's win by virtue of Jannik Sinner's shocking retirement and Iga Swiatek's competitive victory over Jasmine Paolini. I'll also look ahead to New York and look over the US Open seedings, plus share my top title contenders. Hello, my name is Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more content. The highly anticipated Alcaraz-Sinner Cincy final was unfortunately a letdown, as the world number one and defending champion Sinner was forced to retire down love 5 barely 20 minutes into their clash due to an illness. Jannik told fans in his runner-up speech that he did not feel that great from yesterday and thought that he would improve during the night, but he woke up feeling worse on finals Monday. Maybe one of those birthday cakes you took a nibble off of on Sunday upset his stomach or something, but it could also be something in the air, as literally I'm sick right now, so I don't know. Jannik said that it will take him a few days to recover from whatever's going on with him, so he likely will not play mixed doubles as scheduled. He was supposed to partner alongside Katerina Siniakova. This was really an unfortunate way for Jannik's 26-match win streak on hard courts to end, and I hope that he will be fully healthy and ready to go for the year's final major, where he's also the defending champion. Carlos, meanwhile, he extends his streak at the 1,000 level to 17 matches won in a row. He has won 3 Masters 1,000 titles this year alone in Monte Carlo, Rome, and Cincinnati. This also marks his 8th career 1,000 title, putting him second among active players behind Novak Djokovic. Perhaps most important is Carlos will enter New York with a 50-point live ranking lead over Sinner, positioning him to overtake the Italian for the world number one after the year's final major is complete. Jannik needs to do better than Carlos in New York if he wants to retain that world number one ranking. I know Jannik was feeling sick, but Carlos, he was very impressive in the few games that we saw from him, and I could totally see him beating Jannik even if the Italian was fully healthy in Cincinnati. And Carlos, he definitely deserves more credit for his consistency, and he has now won his last 5 of 7 tournaments, and he's made the finals of all of his last 7 tournaments. So again, give Carlos props for his consistency at all levels and on all surfaces. So again, congratulations to Carlos on this win. I know it wasn't how he wanted to win it, but a successful tournament nonetheless, and very well deserved. Now, focusing on the US Open a little bit, the seedings are set for Flushing Meadows, and Grigor Dimitrov was the only man who was supposed to be seeded who was out, so not really that many changes in the seedings. Luciano Darderi is next to be seeded, followed by Lorenzo Sonego, Cam Norrie, Alexei Popyrin. They're all in line, and then also Joao Fonseca will be unseeded yet again. Giving y'all my top 10 US Open men's favorites. First, starting at number 10, we have Andrei Rublev. I know he hasn't really done too much this season, but I was fairly impressed by his Cincinnati showing, where he pushed the eventual champion Alcaraz to 7-5 in the 3rd set. Then Karen Khachanov is number 9. He's been playing very solid really ever since Wimbledon. He, of course, made the Toronto finals, and he made the Cincinnati round of 16 before giving Zverev the retirement win due to I think a back problem, he said. So I would put him higher, but that issue is a little bit troubling for me. Karen also made the semifinals in New York back in 2022. Then Jack Draper, he was a semifinalist from last year. He's at number 8. And Jack, he's had a solid season. However, we haven't seen him since Wimbledon due to an arm injury, so there's question marks surrounding him. At number 7, I'm actually putting Frances Tiafoe above him. Tiafoe, he also made the semifinals last year. In fact, he's a 2-time semifinalist, and Francis just loves to bring it in New York. He's reached the quarterfinals here in Flushing every year since 2021, so would not be surprised if he made another quarterfinal run or beyond. Then at number 6, there's Taylor Fritz, last year's finalist. Fritz has had a somewhat solid North American hardcourt swing, no final, but semifinals of Toronto, and he played rather decent in DC and Cincinnati, but came up against tough opposition there. Then at number 5, Ben Shelton. Should not be a surprise. Toronto champion, 2023 finalist. Loves to play well at all the slams. So, again, not a surprise there. Alexander Zverev, I will be putting him at number 4. He is a former finalist here, and he made the semifinals at both Toronto and Cincinnati. There are question marks surrounding his fitness overall, and plus, he just doesn't have or hasn't shown that moxie of being able to get over the hump and win a slam, but still you can't count him out. At number 3, I will be putting Novak Djokovic. This might be a little bit high considering how we haven't seen Novak since Wimbledon, where he wasn't 100% healthy, and then also New York honestly isn't his best performing slam by a stretch, but nonetheless, he is the GOAT and he deserves to be here. He's made the semifinals at all 3 majors played, so why not go 4 for 4 and make another semifinal here. At number 2, I'll put Carlos Alcaraz. He is the Cincinnati Open champion, of course, and the 2022 champion. It's hard for me to put him above Sinner, even though Jannik is coming into New York with slight concerns surrounding whether he'll recover fast enough from whatever is going on or whatever went on with him in Cincinnati. It's just tough to bet against him right now, I feel, on the hard court still. Really, Alcaraz and Sinner are neck and neck, but if I had to put one over the other, I'll pick Sinner over Carlos. Now, moving over to the women's side, Iga Swiatek, she won her 24th career title and 11th 1,000 title, which is ludicrous considering that the woman is only 24 years old. She defeated 7th seed Jasmine Paolini 7-5, 6-4. I honestly, being transparent, was not expecting this final to be as competitive as it was. I predicted a 6-3, 6-2 win in favor of Swiatek, and credit to Jasmine. She played her best tennis of the tournament in this final, which was not expected considering how she really hadn't been playing all that well leading up to this championship. And it's also impressive considering how she tweaked her ankle, although that didn't seem to really bother her, and also just the amount of tennis that she has played this fortnight. And the odds were against Paolini as well, considering how she was 0-5 against Swiatek leading into this matchup, and she only won 1 set over the Polish woman. But Jasmine, she was the one who jumped out to her early 3-love lead, and she took advantage of an error-prone Iga, who definitely did not play at that same level, that same top level we saw against Rybakina in the semifinals. Jasmine, she maybe could have won the opening set, and the turning point of the match was at 30-all at 3-love when Iga hit a backhand cross-court winner that barely clipped the sideline. As if that ball was called out, then Jasmine would have had a break point opportunity, and we never know what could have happened if Jasmine got the break there, the double break lead. Iga really settled in after that point and won 5 games in a row from then on, and she also had a set point at 5-4, but then she folded a little bit as her first serve and forehand started to misfire. Again, I think that Paolini for sure had a chance to at least take a set, namely the opening set. Iga was vulnerable on her serve for a good portion of the first set as well as a decent part of the second set. Swiatek was a tad bit double fault prone. She hit 7 double faults, and she had a 67% first serve success rate compared to 82% first serve points won against Rybakina, so definitely that shows she wasn't as sharp behind her serve. Paolini, she also just was more consistent, I feel, and also very aggressive. And again, props to Jasmine for playing a competitive match. She deserves more respect for how she pushed Iga at times. But even when Paolini led 3-love in the opening set, I knew a Swiatek win was inevitable, and it is fitting that she sealed the victory with an ace. And the serve, it really has been her saving grace throughout this tournament. Again, it wasn't her best serving performance in this final, and she said after the match that she had a love-hate relationship with her serve in this championship, but still it was able to get her through in the end. And I think, again, like I mentioned in my last video, Swiatek will take a lot of confidence from winning a faster hard court title. Yes, she even admitted herself that the Cincinnati courts played a bit slower this year compared to last, but she still said that she was surprised by her winning this title. And I feel like it really shouldn't be a surprise considering how she won Wimbledon at this point. And I definitely think that the Wimbledon title helped her and gave her that added belief that she can win a title like this on her faster courts. I've maintained this for a while. The issue wasn't about Iga being a clay court merchant. That was cap, because she had a lot of success at Indian Wells and in Doha, but those courts played notoriously slower. She always struggled on the faster on the faster surfaces like a Cincinnati or Australian Open or Wimbledon. But that Rybakina win was a test that she cleared with flying colors. So impressive still with that win. And with this Cincy win and serve success, I think that she will be more confident about her U.S. Open prospects. I do wonder, though, with her now being more of the favorite and expectations being higher on her, will she kind of falter a little bit? She admitted too that a lot of her women's success and her being able to be free was because expectations were low. The bar was really low for her there. But now the expectations are going to be back high on her for the first time. Really not that long ago, because at Roland Garros she was considered still a solid favorite, but still she's going to be a lot of people's favorite in my eyes for the title. Also, I have to say, if I'm the field, I'm taking a little bit more solace in this finals results because, again, Iga, she wasn't all that great in this match. She's not unbeatable. Again, she's very, very good, and she's right now in the best form, I'd say, but she's definitely a little bit beatable. So if you catch her on an off day, she still can be beaten. A lot of how the US Open plays out will obviously depend on the draw, which will be altered with this finals result. Paolini's finals run secured her the 8th seed, pushing Anisimova down to 9, whereas more importantly, Swiatek is back up to number 2, overtaking Coco Gauff. Iga won't have a chance at overtaking Sabalenka for number 1 at the US Open, but she still for sure has a solid shot at getting it later and ending the year number 1. Right now, she trails Sabalenka about 500 points in the live race, and Swiatek, she also did not play Beijing nor Wuhan last year. Sabalenka, meanwhile, she's defending quarterfinals points in Beijing, and she won Wuhan. So would not be surprised at all if Swiatek ended the year number 1 for the 3rd year. Looking at the seeds for the U.S. Open, our top 4 seeds are Sabalenka, Swiatek, Gauff, Pegula, and then Mira Andreeva. We can't forget about her. She is the 5th seed, followed by Keys at 6, Paolini 7, and Anisimova 8. Then at 9 through 12, you got Rybakina, Navarro, Muhova, Svitolina. Rybakina definitely is going to be a very dangerous one for a lot of those players. So a tough position for Atlanta to be in, being number 9 seed, but you never know what could happen. Then you got 13 through 16, Alexandrova, Towson, Kazatkina, Bencic. Victoria Mboko, she will be seeded 22nd. This will be the first time she will be seeded at a major. And then right behind her is Naomi Osaka at 23. This will be the first time where she's actually a seed since the 2022 Australian Open. Emma Raducanu is 1 out from being seeded, so she barely missed the cut. I don't know if any of these players will withdraw from the U.S. Open, so she might just be unseeded, so she'll be a dangerous floater. Also, Magdalena Linette is unseeded, as well as Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, Donna Vekic, Danielle Collins, Barbora Krejcikova, and Maria Sakkari. Looking at my top 10 women's titles contenders, at number 10, I have Jasmine Paolini. Of course, she just made the Cincinnati finals, and while a lot of it depends on her draw, just being pretty blunt, and I don't know if the draw will be in her favor for a full-on run, but she showed positive signs for sure in that finals match against Iga. Number 9, Jessica Pegula. You might say she could be higher considering how she is last year's finalist, but she has not been in great form at all since winning Bad Homburg. She has been 2-4, and I don't know if she has that confidence right now. I think she needs the confidence in order to go on another deep run. Number 8, Victoria Mboko, Montreal winner, of course, but not sure if she's ready right now to go all the way and win a whole slam, but maybe she is. Number 7, Naomi Osaka, Montreal finalist, 2-time former champion, and she will be seeded at a major for the first time, which might be the X factor in her breaking through and actually making a slam second week for the first time since winning the 2021 Australian Open. Number 6, Amanda Anisimova, might be a controversial pick having her this high, but you can't underestimate her. She's a solid player, of course, making the women in finals, and she'll have the crowd support being an American. At number 5 is Elena Rybakina. She has been in good form, making 3 semifinals at the relatively big tournaments, DC, Montreal, and Cincinnati. However, I didn't put her higher because, for one, she just cannot seem to get over the hump of actually winning a big semifinal, but even bigger, she has a horrible track record at the year's final major, as she has never made the second week in her career. Then at number 4, you have Madison Keys. She's the Australian Open champ, a former finalist from 2017. I feel like a lot of people have not been putting as much respect on Keys' name, but you can't deny the fact that she always knows how to bring it at a slam, it seems like. And again, she has the crowd support, and I think the conditions would suit her well. So if she's healthy, why not add a second slam to her repertoire? At number 2, the defending champ, Aryna Sabalenka. I don't really have to explain why I have her as a top 2 favorite that much, but I put Iga above her because right now I think that Iga's game overall is just more complete. There are a little bit of holes in Sabalenka's game right now, from the return, the backhand, really the forehand as well. It's just a little bit too much going on there with Sabalenka. I do want to give one last parting note or section to the Cincinnati Open because it was definitely memorable, but not for great reasons. Honestly, the tournament, it wasn't a great tournament. It wasn't a great tournament. And playing devil's advocate, a lot of this wasn't the tournament's fault, and the tournament did not want the Monday finals. It was the tour's doing for whatever reason. I don't get why they wanted that, but we also had rain delays, not in the tournament's control, although I know a lot of people said the tournament should have built a roof, but I don't think that was that feasible. You also had a power outage, which was crazy. I don't know if this was in their control either, but you could also hardly see the ball at times, especially like when matches were early on during the day. That for sure hampered the viewing experience as a spectator from home. And then the court angle still isn't all that great. The players, but the main thing really is the players. They just were not healthy. 6 of the men's seeds retired mid-tournament, not including Zverev, who really should have retired in his semifinal against Alcaraz, but stuck it out until the bitter end. And we really did not get a single memorable, high-quality, big matchup. The closest thing that we have is Alcaraz-Rublev in the quarterfinals, so I'll say that was fine. And really, Terence Altman was the only real shining moment of the tournament. I mean, aside from, the winners, props to the winners and stuff like that. But the Sinner Alcaraz final, that was supposed to be their saving grace, and it blew up. That's horrible, honestly, for the tournament's sake. So, and I find it interesting how the Canadian Open, they were set to have the shorter end of the stick because they didn't have, Alcaraz or Sinner, even Sabalenka. But then we have a Sinner Alcaraz final, and Sinner retires 5 games in. And not to mention, the overarching thing was that the Canadian Open totally blew the Cincinnati Open out of the water in terms of match quality. The Canadian Open match quality was so good from the latter stage on. The Cincinnati Open, the matches were chop, and a lot of it came down to the players struggling with the heat, and the schedule was tough with them having to play so close to each other. They didn't really have a proper rest period after Wimbledon either. And then now too, it's going to have a carryover effect into the US Open, not to mention the mixed doubles championship that's going on literally the day after the Cincinnati Open finals. That's ridiculous. So, and to make matters worse, this is the first year the US Open is starting a day earlier, as they're starting on Sunday, which takes an extra day of rest from the players. It's a mess. That is all I have for this video. Let me know your thoughts on all the action we saw in Cincinnati, and if you agree with my top 10 title contenders in the comments below. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more content. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I will see you all next time here on Christian's Court.